Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. An Instagram post from Steffi Bull, who manages the career of Raven Chapman. Good to catch up with Raven this week. Nice to hear she's back in the gym, taking over, and as focused and hungry as ever to chase her dream to become a world champion. The goal remains the same, and I've no doubt in my mind that Raven will become a world champion. She's already looking forward to what 2025 brings. Here and now, she's coming off her first professional loss, and it was a lopsided loss to Sky Nicholson, but I still believe in Raven, and I don't think everyone can do to Raven what Sky did to Raven, though it's a race against the clock.
At featherweight it is.
If she's planning on staying at 126 pounds, it's a race to Nina Menke, newly crowned IBF champion. There are 3 champions in this division. Amanda Serrano holding 2 alphabet titles, Sky holding 1, and Nina holding the other. Now, you already did what you did with Sky. It didn't work out. Your next best bet to become a champion at this weight, it's gotta be Nina.
Because Amanda just fought.
You have no leverage to get Amanda Serrano in the ring. We don't actually know what Amanda's gonna do next, or what's gonna happen to the 2 alphabet titles she still holds. So Nina Menke is your best bet.
Can she beat her?
Absolutely. Even here and now, at 9-1 with 2 knockouts coming off her first professional loss, I am 100% sure that if they make that fight, Raven wins that fight. But it is a race against the clock because you might be looking at Nina, but so is Sky.
You want Nina's IBF title? So does Sky.
So Sky might be able to lure Nina into a fight because it would be a unification match.
Then how does Raven get her in the ring?
Amanda Serrano might be able to lure Nina into the ring because that would also be a unification match and likely would pay more money than a Sky Nicholson fight if Amanda so chooses to pursue her. Don't forget, she wants a Taylor trilogy, but if that doesn't work out, she's not staying at 140. She will likely drop back down where she holds 2 alphabet titles. Revisit talks for a Nina Menke fight that this time will be a unification match.
Time is of the essence for Raven.
This is what she's up against. She's got to worry about Sky Nicholson or Amanda Serrano beating her to the punch, beating her to a Nina Menke fight if she wants to become a champion in this division. That being said, Frank and George have to get a move on. To my knowledge, Nina is not otherwise preoccupied. She's enjoying her reign as a champion at this time. You have to make her an offer she can't refuse. You have to make it worth her while, because fighting Raven, that would be a voluntary title defense, not a mandatory. She doesn't have to fight her.
You have to pay to play.
And pay her well. If your aim is to get Raven a title at 126, you can do it if you get her the Nina Menke fight. And if you make it, Raven wins it. I don't have a doubt in my mind.
But you have to hurry.
That's at 126. There may be an opportunity on the horizon at 130, where Alicia Baumgartner still reigns as that division's undisputed champion, though without much reason to stay there. There are no big-name fights for Alicia at 130 at this time, and she's toying with free agency.
Does she stay with Matchroom? Does she go somewhere else? I don't know. Maybe MVP?
I pride myself on my honesty. I'm a fan of Alicia, and I am a fan of Raven. But if Raven were to try to challenge Alicia for the undisputed, she would lose. Stylistically, it's the Sky Nicholson fight all over again, except Alicia actually has power, stopping power. She's all wrong for Raven.
Then what's the opportunity?
That Alicia may not be staying at 130 much longer, that she may vacate all the alphabet titles she currently holds and move up to 135. I just don't see any reason for Alicia to stay there, and she might not. So if she doesn't, and all those titles get vacated, that hits the reset button on the whole division, and that would afford Raven an opportunity to fight for a title. A vacant title, yes.
But she can further legitimize herself by picking up the others.
So that's something to watch out for in the coming year. If and when Alicia moves up, she might vacate. I still believe in Raven. I still think she's one of the best fighters at or around these weights, even if the Nicholson fight didn't go how I thought it would.
You win some, you lose some.
She can come again. Amanda Serrano did after she lost to Frida Wahlberg way back there in 2012. It's one loss, and that's hardly the end of the world. They just have to get a move on. They shouldn't sit on this loss, whether it's staying at 126 and vying for a title there, or just getting their feet wet at 130 pounds, getting in position to fight for a title that might become available. One way or another, they need to hit the ground running. In men's cruiserweight news, you might have heard that Jai Opetaia is set for a speedy ring return
Against his mandatory challenger, Huseyin Cinkara, in January of next year in his native Australia, on the Gold Coast.
Known about this for a while, and they managed to get it done in a timely fashion. Jai Opetaia's last 3 fights have all been in Riyadh. This will be the first time that he's fought in Australia in a while. Sporting a professional record of 26 wins with no losses, no draws, 20 knockouts, 2-time IBF champion and current Ring Magazine lineal champion, widely regarded as the best in show in the cruiserweight division, though Mexico's own Zurdo Ramirez is giving him a run for his money.
We'll talk about him later.
For now, the focus is Germany's own Huseyin Cinkara. Sports an unblemished record of 22 wins with no losses, no draws, 18 knockouts. Last in action against a guy whose last name I cannot pronounce in April of this year, a fight that Huseyin won in the second round by way of a TKO.
It's the only fight that he had this year.
He fought 2 times in 2022, 2 times in 2023, only once this year, but for the most part, his handlers do seem to do a good job of keeping him busy. Decent knockout percentage. He's won 4 of his last 6 fights by way of knockout. Guess the only hang-up is that there are no familiar names on his CV. There are no real familiar names on his resume. So while he is stopping a lot of these guys, he's knocking them out. Who are they?
Jai Opetaia, more productive in this past calendar year. He saw action in October and action before that in May.
He's been fighting 2 times a year for the last 2 years, making up for lost time.
Doing good.
So what should we expect when he shares the ring with Huseyin Cinkara in January of this year? And having viewed the footage on Huseyin, I have to be honest that the guy's not bad. Shows some mobility, agility, good usage of the lead hand, the jab. He's very prolific with the jab.
Busy.
Light on his feet, too. This guy can move, manage the distance well. And I like his variety of punches mid-range, as he is primarily a mid-range fighter. Not quite all the way on the inside, but not on the outside either. Just close enough to get off his punches, and he can maintain it.
But you will notice that his torso is very upright, quite static.
This is often the case with European fighters. They don't bend at the waist or bend at the knees, come in at a slight crouch, as much as fighters you find in America or Mexico.
It's a deficiency.
And we just saw that in the Zurdo Ramirez versus Chris Billum Smith fight, that Zurdo was a lot more fluid with his movement, changing levels, while Chris, his torso was a lot more upright, kept him in line for punches, lots of punches. That seems to be the case with Huseyin. Husein's got good feet, good movement, but he's a bit stiff upstairs.
I like his combinations, though. I do like his variety of punches. He shows fluidity there.
I like those uppercuts. I like the snap on his jab, the speed. So I get the sense that this ain't gonna be a whitewash like the Jordan Thompson fight was, or the Ellis Zorro fight was, and this might be a bit more difficult than this Jack Macy fight that we just saw Jai in.
This fight might be harder than that one was.
Huseyin Cinkara is an orthodox fighter, whereas Jai Opetaia is a very fleet of foot and hard-punching southpaw. Interesting assignment for Jai, because usually He's the athletic one. He's the agile one. It would seem that Huseyin's got agility of his own.
Shouldn't take him lightly, and he shouldn't look past him, even though it's in Australia.
Which would give Jai Opetaia home field advantage as the defending champion. Should this fight go to the cards, you know that Jai is going to get consideration.
Home field advantage is a real thing.
Though on the cusp of the biggest fights of his professional boxing career, on the eve of what could be big unification matches with the likes of Zurdo Ramirez or maybe Noel Mikhailian, you don't want to screw the pooch now. You don't want to take your eyes off the ball now. Take this guy seriously.
I get the sense that Jai's gonna have to work for this one.
This guy's never been beat. He doesn't know how to lose yet. Jai takes care of business in January. That leaves the rest of his schedule clear for the rest of the year to do those unification matches with the two remaining champions at this weight.
Boy, it seems like the IBF is always in a hurry to bog him down with mandatories.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking. But I'm looking forward to it. I relish the opportunity to watch Jai do what he does. He's a fan-friendly fighter, a TV-friendly fighter, an action guy.
It's gonna be shown on DAZN early January.
You get this as part of your DAZN subscription in association with Tasman and Gold Star Promotions.
Might not be a bad idea to get Sky Nicholson on the undercard, since this is gonna be in Australia.
Sky's boxed all over the place. United Kingdom, United States, Mexico, Saudi.
She ain't boxing her native Australia yet. Might not be a bad idea to get Sky on this show.
Well, it might not be a bad idea to sign Shernika Johnson, if they can. I think she was with Lou DiBella, but Lou doesn't have her doing anything. Just a few ideas I'm bouncing around. In any event, look for Jai Opetaia versus Huseyin Cinkara early next year on DAZN, and we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. Now, assuming that Jai Opetaia takes care of business in January, attention will then turn to a Zurdo Ramirez fight. It's the natural fight to make, seemingly the only fight to make at cruiser. And granted that there is one other champion there in Noel Mikhailian, I don't think most people even know he has a title.
The WBC title?
Usually, the guy holding a green belt at a given weight is one of the most identifiable fighters that are there, but that's not the case with Mikhailian. His entire reign as WBC champion, and he is WBC champion still. He should have been stripped.
They ordered him to fight Ryan Rositsky, and for one reason or another, it didn't happen. They didn't strip him.
Better still, it's not Opetaia versus Mikhailian that people have on the brain. It's Opetaia versus Ramirez, Zurdo Ramirez, who's making history.
The first Mexican-born super middleweight champion, the first Mexican-born cruiserweight champion, unified cruiserweight champion.
Mazatlan is in the house.
Zurdo Ramirez seems a much more dynamic fighter as a cruiserweight than he did as a super middle or a light heavy, and I used to think of this fight with Jai Opetaia as a whitewash, that there's no way Zurdo Ramirez is going to be able to stand up to this guy, but fight by fight, Zurdo is,
He's doing his thing, man.
Granted that Arsene Goulamarian and Chris Billum-Smith are more simple fighters than Jai Opetaia.
Not as mobile, not as agile, not as fast, flat-footed.
So a fight with Jai would be more difficult and dangerous than those fights were, though at the same time, Zurdo is showing layers.
Toughness.
When they said he was going to be moving up to cruiserweight, I wondered how well this guy would be able to take a punch at cruiserweight. And we didn't really get that answer in the Joe Smith Jr. fight because Joe Smith, like Zurdo, moved up from light heavyweight. We didn't really get that answer in the Arsene Goulamarian fight either because Zurdo was on the move that whole fight. Arsene wasn't able to do very much, get very much done. But the Chris Billum-Smith fight, there were moments in that fight where Chris got in with some solid shots, good punches, and Zurdo was able to take them.
Showed a good chin.
He weathered those shots and was able to get off shots of his own. So what we're finding out about Zurdo, fight by fight in the cruiserweight division, is he's faster than your average cruiserweight, lighter on his feet than your average cruiserweight, more fluid.
Now, the cruiserweight division is not a division where you see a lot of American fighters or Mexican fighters, fighters from this part of the world. What you tend to see at cruiserweight are a lot of Europeans and Eastern Europeans.
We often talk about the three base styles that you often see in the sport, but there are also regional styles. So when you're talking about a lot of British fighters or Eastern European fighters, you will notice that their torsos are very much upright.
Whereas an American fighter or a Mexican fighter might bend at the waist and knees a little more, slip and slide, a little more, roll and ride, a little more. That's what Zurdo brings to the cruiserweight division.
And it's working for him. It worked for him with Arsene Goulamarian like it worked for him against Chris Billum Smith. Being honest, Joe Smith, from right here in the US of A, gave Zurdo a better fight than those two cruiserweight champions. Why?
Yeah, regional styles might have something to do with it.
Zurdo dominated those two cruiserweight champions where he did labor with Joe Smith Jr. So up until this point, Jai Opetaia has been the athletic cruiserweight and the mover, the fast guy, and strong.
Oh yeah, I still think he's stronger than Zurdo. I still think punch for punch, he punches noticeably harder than Zurdo.
Jai's got one or two qualities that Zurdo doesn't have, but Zurdo has one or two qualities that Jai doesn't have. Jai's got power.
Zurdo's got stamina.
Yeah, Zurdo is a lot flabbier and fleshier than he was as a super middleweight or a light heavy, but don't let that fool you. He's got great stamina, able to consistently keep up the pace all 12 rounds, all 36 minutes, where Jai Opetaia more than once has gassed out in the championship rounds in both Mayris Briedis fights, and he was in a lot of trouble towards the tail end of both of those fights. So where Jai has more stopping power than Zurdo, Zurdo's got more stamina than Jai.
More inside game too.
You know, I didn't think Zurdo would spend much time fighting on the inside as a cruiserweight because of how big and strong a lot of these guys are. But he shows shades of his old self every now and then, dominating the pocket, being fluid there, getting off combinations and being accurate.
He's better in the pocket than Jai.
He's better mid-range to inside than Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia is a mid-range fighter, primarily mid-range.
He's got a hop.
On his toes, in and out, getting off straight punches while he does it. But he's not an inside fighter, where Zurdo, he is.
He can be.
Another interesting wrinkle.
Element.
Matching them against each other, that for Jai Opetaia, Zurdo Ramirez might be the most athletic and fleet-of-foot fighter that he's faced at cruiser, but the same is true in reverse.
Jai's not flat-footed like Arsene Goulamarian, like Chris Billum Smith.
They're both southpaws, they both are. They both have speed, mobility, and agility.
This is a closer fight than I initially thought.
When it was first proposed that Zurdo would ascend to the cruiserweight division, I immediately thought to myself, fighting the way he's been fighting, Jai takes him out. If you try to bulldoze this guy, stand in front of him and put pressure on him, he's gonna knock you out. Based on how Zurdo was fighting. But how Zurdo was fighting, it's changed.
He's not just a pressure guy anymore.
And who really would have given Zurdo Ramirez decent odds against Jai Opetaia looking the way that he looked against Dimitri Bivol? It wasn't that long ago. So initially I thought, Zurdo don't stand a chance. But now,
Yeah, I changed my mind. This is a closer fight.
might have to start giving Zurdo Ramirez the benefit of the doubt against Jai Opetaia, because fight by fight, he's improving, he's looking better in several different areas. So what wins the day? Jai's power or Zurdo's stamina?
Can he outlast him?
Mayris Briedis, who was pushing 40, almost did.
This is the fight.
This is the one to make at cruiserweight. The very best fight in the division, and next year,
These two are gonna have to fight.